Hey everyone, it's Bear. It is Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, and I wanted to continue in the stream of videos I've been doing for trans people who are getting ready to go to or to start the enlistment process. So, last time I talked about meeting with a recruiter for the first time and what the recruiting process is like. The next step is getting yourself cleared for MEPS. MEPS stands for Military Entrance Processing Station. Um, so before I get into the what the day at MEPS looks like, I wanted to talk about the process of getting cleared for MEPS. I touched on it a little bit in my last video when I talked about your need to be patient while you're going through the enlistment process with your recruiter. And one thing that you need to be really, really patient with is the process of getting cleared for MEPS. Um, you need pretty much everything to be signed off on and looked at and cleared. MEPS deals mostly with your physical qualification, but there are other qualifications that you have to meet to get into the military. So there's some things that came up for me, and there's probably other things that didn't that you may deal with. So yeah, everybody's process is different, right? My recruiter showed me somebody's file that was like it was like a novel. She had so much paperwork in there. Mine was pretty big. The trans stuff and the fact that I did this late in life, so I've got a lot of history. And then other people had like a couple pieces of paper because they just didn't have that. Um, so some of the things that you have to get cleared is your background basically. So your legal background. So if you've had any kind of arrests or charges in your history, including traffic stuff. If you've had major traffic violations like speeding, that's something that you'll need to work with your recruiter on and probably do a statement, say this is what happened, this is what I learned from it, and apply for a waiver. I had personally a couple of arrests on my file. Uh, One which was actually self-defense, but when an officer arrives on scene and there's both people saying, "Hey, they hit me," they're gonna arrest you. And so I had an arrest for assault, which was like I said, it was actually self-defense, and that's exactly what I did. I went to the courthouse, got the record from that arrest, and then wrote a statement and got some character statements. That arrest was in 1998, and I did my enlistment process between like 2016 and 2018. So it was almost 20 years old by the time I was dealing with it. So obviously I had learned a lot from that, and I had developed a lot. I had gone through a lot of life changes, and I wasn't that same person anymore. And I got character statements from a couple of different people. One being the deputy chief of police in the town that I was actually arrested in, who I knew as a customer. So it was just like luck that I knew the guy. So, and in the end, it wasn't like a huge big deal. It was just a lot of like time and effort. So it slowed my process down. I had to get that cleared and signed off on and get a waiver for it. Another thing you'll need is your credit history, because they don't want somebody going into the military that has bad credit, dragging them down, and other reasons. And again, same thing. I haven't always been a very financially stable person, and so my credit was not great going into the military. Same thing. Set up some payment programs to get some stuff paid off. Provided that documentation. Hey, I've paid this off completely. This one's got you know um, a plan in place, and I got a waiver for my credit. But more so, getting cleared for MEPS is going to be based on your physical and health history. So as a trans person, that's a lot. And my process, I applied right when the ban lifted in 2018, my recruiter and I submitted my packet to MEPS within the first like couple of days because we were ready to go. We had been waiting, you know, and the packet got rejected so many times I actually stopped counting, and it became a very disappointing and tiring process, which is normal. Anybody that's getting rejected over and over again is going to start to get a little down. But I kept falling back on, actually the Airman's Creed, I will never falter and I will not fail. Like, I'm going to keep plugging away at this until there's a final absolutely not. And most of the stuff I got rejected for was just stuff I needed more paperwork for. Like, they saw that I had like an ultrasound at one point, and it showed ovarian cysts. And they were like, hey, ovarian cysts are a disqualifying factor. We're going to need to know more about that. Are they going to be something that gets in your way of performing your duties? And it took a while to get that documentation. That's the thing that takes the longest, is actually reaching out to the doctor who did the diagnosis, who did the treatment, and then getting them to print out and sign off on the paperwork, possibly getting them to say they're cleared, this shouldn't get in the way, there might be a statement involved, and then going and physically retrieving that and taking it to your recruiter so that they can send it up to MEPS. It's just a process. And that's part of the reason that I said you have to be patient with this. For people who have some history, the process just takes longer, and you have to have a little bit of a thick skin towards the rejection aspect. Like I said, getting rejected, getting turned down for something that you really want, it gets to be a drag, but it's not the end of the world. And my recruiter used to say all the time, he'd call me up and say, Nick, I don't have good news, but it's not the worst news either. You've been rejected again, and now they need some documentation on this. So the hunt would just start over, okay, track down that doctor, the diagnosis, paperwork, etc., like I just said. And then they just kind of add that to the stack of stuff. It's not like you have to start over every single time, But another thing that happened to me was actually kind of funny, because they were trying to figure out their process. The MEPS people, so you fill out a health history saying, no, I've never broken a bone, or yes, I've broken a bone and here's my documentation, and it's gender specific, obviously, because we have different conditions, right? And so what you do is you fill out the documentation for your biological sex, because that makes sense, right? Like I said, I had cysts on one of my ovaries. And then at the end of it, you make a note and you say, biologically female, identifies as male, being processed as male, blah, blah, blah. At one point, I was actually rejected, and they were like, hey, this is a guy. We need, for some reason, you filled out the paperwork for a female. We need you to fill this out, like, properly. And, like, I went into my recruiter's office, like, that night. It was, like, after work, and he was like, this is really silly. It's not going to go anywhere, but we're going to do it. And I was filling out the paperwork for a biological male, and I was like, hey, what's this testicular condition? And he was just like, I guarantee you don't have it. And as we expected, that paperwork went up and got, like, rejected immediately, and they were like, no, clearly this doesn't apply, fill it out again. Our bad. So yeah, lots of stuff can happen. They're going to need lots of information, and don't freak out and panic if and when you get rejected. And that may not happen. I knew another trans guy from Chicago that got through, like, basically on the first try, so it could go totally differently for you. Depends on a lot of things. So yeah, that's the process of getting ready for MEPS, and then I'll do another one about the actual MEPS day and or days. Thanks.